The delivery truck growled its way down my peaceful suburban street like distant thunder, jostling over the speed bumps the Hoa had so proudly approved. I'd been counting the days for this moment. My brand new, absurdly massive 75-inch TV was finally here. My apartment living room was about to transform into a private cinema just without the sticky floors and $5 popcorn. I pulled into the driveway, heart racing, and watched as two broad-shouldered movers carefully maneuvered the gigantic box out of the truck. The glossy screen caught the sunlight like a towering black mirror, reflecting not just the sky, but my dreams of epic weekend binge sessions in full cinematic splendor. Stepped back, trying to appear nonchalant, though inside, I was practically buzzing out of my skin. And then I heard a piercing, high-pitched shriek that cut through the calm neighborhood air like a siren. I stiffened. "Excuse me." I turned slowly, already knowing what I'd see. There she stood, Mrs. Karen Whitmore, president of the Hoa, perfect tan, immaculate hair, hands planted firmly on her hips. She glared at the delivery truck as though it were committing a federal crime in broad daylight. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" she demanded, her voice quivering somewhere between fury and triumph. I cleared my throat. I ordered a TV. It's being delivered." "A 75-inch TV?" she exclaimed, eyes widening in theatrical horror. "Do you realize how disruptive that is to the neighborhood? The glare alone could blind small children. And the vibrations. People might feel their floors tremble." I blinked, fighting the urge to laugh. "It's inside my house." "Inside?" Her pitch shot up an octave. "Your walls are not soundproof. The noise from movies, explosions, screaming, car chases, it will echo through our perfectly peaceful cul-de-sac. This is completely unacceptable." The movers exchanged glances, silently debating whether they should pretend they had another delivery. I rubbed my temples. "It's not that loud," but she had already pivoted dramatically toward the sidewalk, phone raised, apparently preparing to document what she considered a neighborhood catastrophe. I attempted diplomacy, keeping my tone steady, though a hint of sarcasm slipped through. "Karen, it's just a TV. I'm not launching rockets." Her eyes narrowed to slits. "This is about community safety. You are disrupting the peace, and I will be filing a formal complaint with the Hoa immediately. This is chaos incarnate." She planted herself at the edge of my driveway as if I were detonating explosives rather than installing electronics. Meanwhile, the movers carefully carried the box into my living room, while she muttered darkly about declining morals and irresponsible homeowners. The moment they left and I shut the door, I leaned against it, heart pounding, half from adrenaline, half from disbelief. Who knew a television could spark a suburban crisis? Then came the pounding, and before I could even steady my breathing, loud, relentless knocking rattled the door. I peered through the peephole. Of course, Karen again. Her expression looked like a blend of a hurricane warning and a surprise tax audit. I swore I could almost see steam rising from her perfectly coiffed hair. "May I come in?" she demanded, not waiting for permission. I hesitated, torn between courtesy and the instinct to shield my colossal new purchase. Sure. For what?" "For community oversight," she announced, brushing past me as though my living room were public property. She stepped across the welcome mat with the authority of a courtroom judge and the flair of a stage illusionist. The movers were long gone. I gestured toward the unopened box. "So, here it is. 75 inches of cinematic happiness." Karen's eyes grew enormous, as if I'd unveiled a missile launcher. She edged closer, hands hovering cautiously. "I can feel it vibrating from here. And that reflection, don't even get me started. You're creating a hazard. Someone could trip over their own shadow." I stared at her. "The reflection?" She ignored me entirely, scanning the room like a detective documenting evidence. "And these walls so thin, so flimsy. Your neighbors won't survive this." I'm talking sleepless nights, anxiety, a collapse of suburban tranquility. I leaned against the couch, trying to comprehend the sheer intensity radiating from her. "Karen, it's Friday night. Most people quietly watch Netflix. You might want to relax." Relax? That word clearly did not exist in her vocabulary. Instead, she reached into her bag and produced a measuring tape. We must determine the distance from your television to your neighbor's window. For compliance. I watched in stunned silence as she paced methodically, measuring, scribbling notes in a small notebook, outrage seemingly growing with every step. Finally, she faced me, lips pressed thin, eyes blazing. I am filing a formal HOA violation. Your 75-inch monstrosity poses a threat to this community. And don't imagine a simple apology will resolve this. This is serious. My patience was evaporating, replaced by disbelief and restrained amusement. Karen, you do realize this is inside my living room, right? I'm not projecting it onto the street. She froze as though I had uttered something scandalous. Then she delivered the ultimate accusation. Your neighbor's cat might see it. And cats have very delicate dispositions. I just stared. The only sound in the room was the faint hum of the brand new television. Somewhere deep down, I sensed this fiasco was far from over. And just when I thought she might finally leave, she pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. By the time I realized she was live streaming, my stomach sank to my shoes. She was broadcasting my living room, my TV, my couch, even my world's okayest neighbor, doormat, to who knew how many viewers. Her sharp, urgent voice narrated every frame like a breaking news report. Here we observe a 75-inch screen blatantly threatening the peace of our pristine community. Notice the blinding reflection. The vibrations can be felt from across the street. I dragged a hand down my face. Karen, you're making it sound like I installed a laser cannon. She zoomed in on the screen, tapping it with manicured precision. We cannot allow this to continue. Someone must hold this irresponsible neighbor accountable. The HOA has rules. Arguing on camera seemed like pouring gasoline on a bonfire, so I tried reasoning. Karen, it's a TV. I'm not hosting a rock concert or setting off fireworks. Really? Her frown deepened dangerously. This is about standards, about disruption, about visual pollution, the psychological consequences of such an enormous device. At that exact moment, another knock echoed through the house. I opened the door to find Greg, the HOA enforcement officer from across the street, wearing his usual perpetually confused expression. Hey, he said slowly, glancing from Karen to me. Is everything okay? I mean, she's live streaming. Karen whipped around toward him like a hawk spotting movement. Greg, you see, even the neighbors are witnessing this threat. Tell him how disruptive this is. Greg squinted at the towering TV, then glanced back at me, clearly trying to balance himself on a fragile social tightrope. I mean, it's a TV, kind of big, yeah, but it's inside. I don't think it's exactly a neighborhood emergency. Karen's eyes sharpened. Greg, you will report this. Or would you prefer the entire HOA board breathing down your neck? Next, Greg swallowed. I'll think about it. Karen let out an exaggerated huff and pivoted back toward me, her phone still held high. Do you see how serious this is? Everyone knows now. The entire community is watching. You're officially under scrutiny. I shut the door, palms damp. My quiet Friday night had transformed into a public spectacle, a slow-motion suburban catastrophe. As I sank into my couch, attempting to steady my nerves, a cold realization crept in. She wasn't finished. Through the window, I saw her marching toward the next house, phone raised, already strategizing her next move. By Saturday morning, the neighborhood felt like a tense battlefield. Karen hadn't retreated. She was patrolling the sidewalks like a general inspecting her troops. Clipboard in hand, phone streaming live, she documented everything. Joggers, dog walkers, and even the mail carrier became potential witnesses in her ever-growing narrative of suburban doom. I tried to savor a peaceful breakfast, coffee steaming in my hand, but even the crunch of toast felt incriminating under her watchful eye. And right on cue, as I poured the last splash of milk into my cereal, her silhouette appeared at my kitchen window. She was wearing sunglasses, now dramatic, oversized ones like a villain preparing for a press conference. Good morning, I called out brightly, injecting as much normalcy as possible into my voice. Good morning, she replied stiffly, brows knitting together as though she detected something unlawful. Do you realize the disruption you've already caused? People are talking. They are concerned. This violates every unwritten rule of this street. I tried logic again. Karen, it's Saturday. Most people are either working or sleeping in. Who exactly is being disrupted? Her gaze flicked toward the house across the street. They will be disrupted, even if they don't know it yet. The vibrations from your television are traveling through the air, and the psychological impact of its sheer size? It's intimidating, oppressive, un-American. I stared at her. Un-American? Seriously? Yes, she declared, stabbing a finger dramatically toward the sky. We must preserve community values. We must protect peace. We must. I raised a hand. Karen, you're delivering a TED Talk to my kitchen window. No one requested this. Literally no one. She didn't pause. Instead, she began furiously typing on her phone. My worst suspicion was confirmed. She was drafting a formal HOA complaint. I wouldn't have been surprised if it included diagrams, sworn statements, and a detailed map charting the trajectory of my TV's reflection across the cul-de-sac. I decided to respond calmly. I stepped inside, grabbed my phone, and started recording her behavior. If I had proof, maybe the HOA would finally see how obsessive this had become. The moment she noticed my camera pointed at her, she froze. Then her smile spread slowly. Oh, you think you can record me? Don't forget I have a phone too, and everyone will see your reckless conduct. The tension snapped tight. We stood there like rival armies, armed only with smartphones and moral superiority, facing off across my modest front yard. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. The HOA board president himself was pulling into my driveway. By the time he stepped out of his car, a peaceful Saturday had evaporated completely. Karen greeted him as though she were unveiling a criminal mastermind, her phone lifted to capture every second. "Ah, Mr. Thompson," she said, practically trembling with authority. "You must witness what this neighbor has done. A 75-inch monstrosity. Disruptive. Dangerous. Psychologically destabilizing." I raised both hands. "Mr. Thompson, I promise it's just a television inside my house. No one is in danger." Karen gasped as if I'd insulted her entire ancestry. "Inside? You think that changes anything? The reflection, the vibrations, the collective anxiety. This is an emergency. A precedent must be established." Mr. Thompson scratched his head, glancing between us. "I see. Well, we typically handle these matters through written complaints. Perhaps a warning first. No one's called the police, right?" Karen's jaw nearly hit the pavement. "A warning? Are you serious? This is a catastrophe in community governance. The neighborhood will suffer if we allow this." I exhaled deeply. "It's just a TV. I've measured the volume. It's within reasonable levels. I haven't even used it at full capacity." She clutched her chest as if I'd confessed to arson. "Reasonable levels? You clearly underestimate the ripple effects of modern technology on our serene environment. Lives are at stake." Mr. Thompson attempted to mediate. "Karen, let's calm down. We'll document everything and address it through proper channels." But she leaned forward, voice low and sharp. "Document it? You have no idea. I've already started a petition. If the board fails to act immediately, I will escalate." Escalate? The word settled heavily in my stomach. The quiet suburb I'd chosen for peace was unraveling into a political battlefield. Karen's relentless crusade now had official oversight. I glanced at my gleaming 75-inch TV, catching the sunlight a silent bystander in this absurd drama. It was meant to deliver joy, movies, escapism. Instead, it had become a lightning rod for chaos. Karen stepped back triumphantly, phone raised like a banner of victory. Then Mr. Thompson tilted his head slightly and asked, "Karen, are you sure this isn't personal?" Her confident smile flickered just for a second. By Sunday morning, my living room had become the epicenter of a full-scale suburban spectacle. Karen was everywhere, on the sidewalk, across the street, even peering through neighbors' windows, phone lifted like a commander surveying the battlefield. The HOA had sent an official warning letter citing disruption of community peace, which she waved like a trophy. I tried to ignore her. I truly did. I turned on my new TV at a moderate volume, letting the gentle narration of a nature documentary fill the room. Surely calming ocean waves would diffuse the tension. Within minutes, she appeared at my window again, lips pursed in righteous fury. "You cannot hide behind your screens," she shouted. "Your 75-inch monstrosity is an affront to suburban principles. It is a public hazard." I opened the door slowly, hands raised in surrender. "Karen, it's inside my house. You've reported me, live-streamed me, monitored my windows. It's exhausting." She ignored my plea and marched to the center of the street, clipboard clutched tightly. "Neighbors," she called out dramatically. "Witness the chaos. Witness the tyranny of technology." Doors cracked open. Curtains twitched. Some neighbors watched with amusement, others with disbelief. Coffee cups clutched like survival gear. A few brave souls waved at me discreetly in solidarity, while others quickly retreated indoors. That's when I realized Karen's crusade had gone fully public, and the Hoa had unintentionally become her accomplice. My only option was to lean into the absurdity. I raised my phone and recorded the spectacle. "You know," I called out, louder than intended, "if anyone's being disrupted here, it's me." Karen spun toward me, eyes blazing. "How dare you speak to me that way?" Karen replied evenly, stepping forward. "I bought a television, not a megaphone for chaos. Maybe it's time to relax." For a brief second, uncertainty flickered across her face. Then her clipboard trembled in her grip. "Relax? I cannot. This is my duty." And then something unexpected happened. Across the street, a young child pointed toward my living room window and shouted happily, "Cool TV." The innocence of it sliced straight through the tension. Karen froze, caught between outrage and confusion. Her carefully orchestrated war was suddenly challenged by simple enthusiasm. I leaned lightly against my 75-inch monument to modern entertainment. The battle wasn't truly over. Karen would likely regroup. But for now, the neighborhood paused. The absurdity lingered in the air. One oversized TV, one fiercely determined Hoa queen, one Sunday transformed into a cinematic standoff. As I pressed play on the movie I'd been waiting all week to watch, a thought settled in. Sometimes peace isn't about silence. Sometimes it's about surviving chaos with your sanity and your television intact. The screen flickered to life. Outside, Karen muttered something about next weekend, hinting at a sequel I wasn't sure I wanted. If you felt the tension in this story, hit like, because ordinary people standing up to chaos deserve support. Subscribe to Karen's Hub for every real-life showdown and neighborhood drama. And tell me in the comments, how would you handle a Karen like this?